The smoke rose high into the sky like a giant black cloud, twisting and turning as the wind pushed it across the marina. People were shouting, running, and pointing at the burning yacht in the middle of the dock. Fire alarms screamed through the air. The bright orange flames reflected on the water like dancing monsters. Mark stood frozen at the end of the dock. His heart was beating hard. His mind couldn't understand what his eyes were seeing. His $2 million yacht, the boat he had spent years saving for, the boat that was his pride, his dream, was on fire. He felt heat on his face even from far away. The flames were so strong that the firefighters had to stand back for a second before moving in again. The fire hoses sprayed powerful streams of water, but the flames kept growing, eating everything in their path. People around him whispered, "Who did this? Was it an accident?" "No, it looks like someone started it." Mark heard every word, but he couldn't speak. His hands were shaking. His throat felt tight. He didn't want to believe the truth forming in his mind, but he already knew. He knew exactly who had done it. He knew the face. He knew the voice. He knew the anger. It was her. The woman who had exploded in rage earlier that morning. The woman who made a scene over something as small as not receiving a hello. The woman everyone in the marina called Karen. Mark closed his eyes for a moment and let out a long breath. Just a few hours ago, everything had been normal. Calm. Simple. Peaceful. And now, his entire world was burning in front of him. A firefighter ran past him. "Sir, please stay back. It's dangerous." Mark nodded but didn't move. He couldn't. His legs felt heavy, like they didn't belong to him. He watched in silence as the flames spread from the deck to the cabin, turning the white luxury boat into a bright, fiery monster. The smell of burning wood and plastic filled the air. People covered their noses and stepped back, but Mark didn't move an inch. This yacht wasn't just a boat. It was his life's work. His passion. His dream. And now it was disappearing in front of him, second by second. As the fire raged on, Mark's mind drifted back to the start of the day. Just 3 hours ago. The sun had been soft, the sky calm, the water reflecting the light like a mirror. Mark had arrived at the marina early, ready to prepare for a relaxing day on the ocean. He had been excited, he had friends visiting, clients coming to see the yacht, and a perfect weather forecast. Everything was going smoothly until he saw her, the loud woman standing near the dock office, yelling at a staff member. She was waving her arms and talking so loudly that everyone nearby stared. Mark didn't pay much attention to her. People like her showed up now and then, complaining about something small and making it sound huge. He simply walked past her while answering a phone call from his mechanic. But that one small moment, that simple action, became the reason for everything that happened later. He didn't greet her. He didn't say hello. He didn't even look at her. And Karen took it personally. At the time, Mark didn't think anything of it. He had no idea she noticed him. No idea she felt insulted. No idea she believed he disrespected her. He continued working. He checked the fuel, the navigation system, the ropes, the deck. Everything was normal. Everything was peaceful. Now, as he stood in front of the burning yacht, the memory felt sharp, almost painful. He replayed the moment she stood in front of him, blocking his way, demanding that he apologize for not greeting her. He remembered how angry she looked. How her face turned red. How her voice rose louder and louder. He remembered the exact words she screamed. "You think you're better than me? You think you can walk past me like I'm invisible?" At that time, Mark stayed calm. He explained he had been on a call. He didn't try to fight. He didn't argue. He just walked away. He thought that would be the end of it. But Karen was not the type of person who let things go. And now the results were in front of him: flames, destruction, chaos. A loud crack pulled Mark back to the present. Part of the yacht's roof collapsed, sending sparks into the air. The crowd gasped. Someone shouted to the firefighters. The heat grew stronger. The fire hissed as water hit it. A woman next to Mark whispered, "I heard someone saw who started the fire." Another man replied, "Yeah. I heard it was that crazy lady from the morning." Mark didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Deep inside, he already knew the truth. He had known from the moment he saw the fire. He could picture her face, her angry eyes, her shaking hands, her frustration. But what he didn't know yet was why she had gone so far. Why would someone burn a yacht just because they didn't get a greeting? Why would she risk everything over something so small? The answers were coming. The truth was darker than anyone expected. And Karen would regret her choice sooner than she ever imagined. Because this fire, this chaos, this destruction, was only the beginning. The sky was soft and golden when Mark arrived at the marina that morning. A light breeze moved across the water, making small ripples that shimmered in the sunlight. Seagulls circled above, calling out as if welcoming another peaceful day. Everything felt calm, still, and perfectly normal. But normal was only an illusion. Something dark was waiting in the background, hidden in the shadows of the quiet morning. Mark parked his car and stepped out with a smile. The marina was his favorite place in the world: clean walkways, polished boats, and the sharp ocean smell that always filled his lungs with energy. Today was supposed to be special. He had clients coming to see his yacht. If everything went well, it could lead to a big business deal. He walked down the dock with steady, confident steps. Every sound felt familiar: the clinking of metal ropes, the soft slap of waves hitting the boats, the humming of engines waking up for the day. But then, something unusual broke the peace. A woman's voice. Loud. Sharp. Angry. At first, Mark thought it was someone calling a friend. But the tone was too harsh, too filled with frustration. Then he saw her. A woman in a bright floral shirt stood in front of the marina office, waving her hands wildly at the staff. She looked like a storm ready to explode at any moment. Her hair was messy, her sunglasses crooked, and her lips were tight with anger. This was Karen, though Mark didn't know her name yet. Mark kept walking and tried not to stare. He was used to seeing stressed tourists or impatient visitors, but this woman was different. Her energy felt heavy, almost dangerous, like she needed someone to blame for the smallest problem. She was complaining about everything: the dock, the workers, the boats, even the seagulls. "They're too loud," she shouted. "Do something." The staff member calmly explained, "Ma'am, they're birds." But Karen didn't slow down. Her anger only grew stronger. Mark checked his watch. He didn't have time for drama. He continued walking toward his yacht and answered a call from his mechanic. As he walked past Karen, he was focused on the phone, not on her. And that was the moment everything changed. Karen paused mid-sentence. Her eyes narrowed. Her expression twisted. She watched Mark walk by her without a smile, without a greeting, without even a glance. To anyone else, this was normal. People walked around the marina all the time without greeting strangers. But Karen wasn't like anyone else. She took small things and turned them into big ones. She turned innocent actions into personal attacks. She whispered under her breath, "How rude." Then louder, "How dare he ignore me?" Mark didn't hear her. He kept walking, talking on the phone, and checking his schedule for the day. He didn't even know a storm was forming behind him, a storm with blonde hair, expensive sunglasses, and far too much anger for a quiet morning. When Mark reached his yacht, he felt a wave of peace again. The boat looked perfect. Clean, polished, and ready for the day. He stepped onto the deck and began his routine checks: fuel levels, ropes, navigation screens, emergency gear. But while Mark focused on his work, Karen watched him from a distance. Her eyes followed every move he made. Her jaw tightened. Her hands clenched into fists. To her, Mark was not a man preparing his boat. He was the disrespectful man who ignored her. A worker walking past accidentally brushed Karen's shoulder. She snapped at him instantly. "Watch where you're going." The young worker apologized, but she didn't accept it. She kept muttering, shaking her head, and glaring at Mark like he had done something unforgivable. The marina staff exchanged looks. They had seen this type before. They had even given her a private nickname, the walking complaint. But today, Karen wasn't just complaining. Today, she felt insulted. Today, she felt challenged. And in her mind, she had to win. Mark continued working, unaware of the eyes burning holes into his back. He video called his clients, walked them through the boat's features, and prepared for their arrival. Everything seemed perfectly normal on his side of the dock. But on the other side, Karen was building a wrong story. She convinced herself Mark thought he was better than her. She convinced herself he looked down on her. She convinced herself he tried to embarrass her. None of it was true. But her mind didn't care. She whispered to herself, people like him need to be taught a lesson. A staff member approached her, trying to calm her down, but Karen pushed past him. Her eyes were fixed on Mark. Her mind was boiling. Her pride was wounded. And wounded pride can lead to dangerous decisions. Mark wiped his hands, smiling, excited for the day. Meanwhile, Karen took one slow, determined step toward his yacht. The air around her felt heavier. The morning sun felt dimmer. The peaceful marina began to feel quietly tense. Because what Karen was about to do next would change everything. Mark was adjusting the ropes on the side of his yacht when he felt a strange pressure behind him, like someone was staring directly at his back. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a voice. It was just a feeling, a quiet warning that something was not right. He turned slowly. Karen was standing just a few feet away. Her posture was stiff, her hands tight at her sides, her sunglasses pushed up on her head. She looked like a volcano moments before an eruption, silent on the outside, but boiling inside. Mark gave a polite, confused smile. Can I help you? Karen didn't return the smile. She lifted her chin and spoke in a sharp, cold voice. Yes. You can help me. You can start by explaining why you ignored me. Mark blinked. Ignored you? When? When you walked past me earlier. Don't act like you don't know, she snapped. Her words were like small knives, quick, pointed, and aimed directly at him. Mark nodded slowly. I was on a call. I didn't mean to be rude. Karen stepped closer, invading his space. To me, it looked like you just decided I wasn't important enough. You couldn't even say hello? Mark felt a strange mix of confusion and disbelief. He had met many difficult people before, but something about Karen felt different. Her anger wasn't normal, it felt personal, exaggerated, almost theatrical. He kept his tone calm. I didn't see you. I'm sorry if it felt rude. But Karen didn't want an apology. She wanted a reaction. She wanted power. Oh, you're sorry, she said mockingly. Do you expect me to believe that? She crossed her arms and raised her eyebrows like a dramatic performer waiting for applause. Mark didn't respond. He had learned long ago that arguing with unreasonable people was like trying to stop a wave with bare hands, pointless. But Karen mistook his silence for disrespect. She leaned even closer. You think you're better than me, don't you? Mark sighed. No. I just want to finish my work. Karen let out a loud, dramatic gasp that turned the heads of nearby workers and tourists. Wow! So now you're dismissing me? In front of people? A couple walking by slowed down, curious. A worker paused with a toolbox in hand. Within seconds, Karen had created an audience, and she loved it. Mark rubbed his forehead. This was getting absurd. Ma'am, I think you're misunderstanding the situation. Oh no, she snapped, I understand everything. Her voice echoed across the dock. You ignored me. You insulted me. And now you're acting like I'm crazy. Mark looked around awkwardly as the small crowd grew. People whispered. Some shook their heads knowingly, clearly familiar with Karen's drama. Karen saw the attention and her confidence doubled. She pointed a finger at Mark, her voice sharp like glass. You rich people think you can do whatever you want. You think your big fancy yacht makes you important. Well, guess what? It's just a boat. Mark took a step back, hands up. I'm not trying to fight. Please calm down. But calm down was the wrong phrase. It triggered something inside her, like pressing a hidden button. Don't tell me to calm down, she shouted so loudly a flock of seagulls flew away. For a moment, the entire dock went silent. Even the waves seemed quieter. Karen's breathing was fast and heavy. Her eyes were wild. Her face was red. Mark realized that this wasn't just a simple confrontation. This was a personal battle in her mind. A battle she believed she had to win. The marina manager rushed over. Karen? Is everything okay? No, she yelled. This man disrespected me. He ignored me on purpose. I want him removed from the marina. The manager tried to stay calm. Karen, let's not make this big. Oh, so you're taking his side now? She snapped. Mark shook his head slowly. He wanted to walk away, but he knew if he moved, Karen would scream even more. Karen pointed at the manager next. You people always protect each other. You think because he has a big boat, he gets special treatment. The manager whispered to Mark, just give her a moment. She always cools down. But today, Karen wasn't cooling down. She was only getting hotter. Mark tried one last time. Look, I'm not trying to disrespect you. Oh please, Karen hissed. Your whole attitude is disrespect. She stepped back and crossed her arms, judging him from head to toe. You're arrogant. You're rude. And you think you're untouchable. Mark had enough. He didn't yell. He didn't insult her. He simply turned around and began walking back to his yacht. That was Karen's breaking point. You walk away from me? From me? She screamed. People gasped as Karen stomped her foot like a furious child. You'll regret this. I promise you, she shouted after him. People like you always get what they deserve. Mark didn't respond. He stepped onto his yacht, grabbed a cloth, and continued cleaning. Karen stood there trembling with rage, her hands shaking, her breath uneven, her mind spinning with anger and wounded pride. Her face twisted into a cold, dangerous smile. Fine, she whispered to herself. If he wants to ignore me, I'll give him something he can't ignore. And with that single thought, a dark idea entered her mind. It was small at first, just a spark. But soon, it would grow into a fire. The marina usually felt like a place of calm, sunlight on the water, workers moving quietly, boats rocking gently with the waves. But after Karen's explosion, the air changed. It felt heavier. Quieter. Uncomfortable. People kept glancing at her from a distance, whispering behind their hands. Some shook their heads. Some simply walked the other way. Everyone knew trouble when they saw it, and Karen was trouble wrapped in floral print and loud sunglasses. Karen, however, didn't notice the looks, or maybe she didn't care. Her anger had become something else now, something sharp and stubborn. She felt insulted, embarrassed, challenged, and she wasn't going to let that feeling go. Mark, meanwhile, had gone back to working on his yacht, trying to pull his mind out of the chaos she created. He cleaned the railings, checked the instruments, tested the engine. He moved calmly, quietly, pretending her shouting never happened. But that calmness only made Karen angrier. In her mind, Mark should have apologized again. He should have begged her to forgive him. He should have tried to make her feel respected. Instead, he had turned his back on her. To Karen, that wasn't just rude, it was war. She spun around sharply and marched toward the marina office. Her sandals smacked hard against the wooden dock with every angry step. People stepped aside to avoid her path, like she was a storm heading straight for them. Inside the office, the marina desk worker, a young man with tired eyes, looked up nervously the moment she entered. Good morning, ma'am, he said carefully. How can I help you? Karen slammed her bag on the counter so hard that pens fell onto the floor. You can start, she said, by kicking that arrogant man off the dock immediately. The worker paused. Sorry? Which man? She pointed dramatically toward Mark's yacht outside the window. Him. The one with the oversized ego and the expensive boat. He disrespected me. The worker took a breath. Ma'am, what exactly did he do? He ignored me, she barked. The worker blinked slowly as if waiting for the rest of the sentence. When nothing else came, he nodded politely. Ma'am, people walk around the marina all the time. They don't greet every stranger. Karen leaned forward, eyes wide with disbelief. So you're taking his side too? No, I'm just saying it's normal. Normal? She snapped. Normal for a rich man to act like he owns this place? Normal to insult me? Me? The worker rubbed his forehead. He had dealt with difficult visitors, but Karen was different. She didn't want a solution. She wanted revenge. She grabbed a complaint form from the counter and scribbled wildly. I want to file a full report, she said. I want the manager to read this. And I want action. She pressed the pen so hard it almost tore the paper. The worker tried again. Ma'am, Mark has been a member here for years. He's respected. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. No, she shouted. There is no misunderstanding. That man thinks he's better than everyone. I want him punished. Before the worker could respond, Karen snatched the paper, marched toward the manager's office, and pushed the door open without knocking. The manager, a calm older man with silver hair, looked up in surprise. Karen, he sighed softly, what seems to be the problem now? Karen dropped the paper on his desk. Him, she said loudly. Mark the Boat King. He disrespected me. He ignored me. He walked away from me like I'm nothing. I want him removed. Ban him. The manager read the report. His eyes softened with patience. Karen, we've talked about this. You can't demand people be removed just because they didn't greet you. That's not why, she snapped. Though it was exactly why. It's about respect, she said dramatically. This place is falling apart because people like him don't follow basic manners. The manager folded his hands calmly. Mark did nothing wrong. He was on a call. He didn't insult you. Karen's face twisted. You're protecting him because he has a big expensive toy out there. We are protecting the rules, the manager replied evenly. And the rule is, no one gets banned for not saying hello. Karen opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She looked like a kettle about to explode. You'll regret this, she hissed. Then she stormed out, leaving the door wide open. Outside, she paused on the dock, breathing hard. People avoided eye contact. Even the seagulls kept a distance. Her eyes locked on Mark again. There he was, polishing the metal rail, calm and unbothered. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't yelled, threatened, complained. To Karen, that was the worst insult of all. He thinks I'm a joke, she whispered bitterly. He thinks he can disrespect me and walk away. Her anger twisted into something darker now, jealousy, pride, obsession. She watched him talking to a worker and showing him the engine. She watched him laughing with his crew. She watched him looking happy. Every smile he made felt like a slap to her ego. In her mind, she was the victim. She had been humiliated. And Mark was responsible. She crossed her arms tightly. Fine. If the marina staff wouldn't punish him, she would. At first, she thought of yelling at him again. But no! That wasn't enough. Then she thought of reporting him again. But that had already failed. Slowly, a new idea formed in her mind. A dangerous one. One that made her pulse quicken. If he wants to show off, she whispered, staring at the yacht. Let's see how he feels when his precious boat isn't so perfect anymore. Karen smiled a cold, crooked smile. And in that moment, the quiet marina had no idea that Karen's revenge was about to take a far darker turn. Karen stood at the edge of the dock, her eyes locked on Mark's yacht like a predator studying its target. The sunlight reflected off the water, but she didn't see the beauty around her. She saw only one thing: Mark's happiness. And it burned her. Deep inside her chest, something twisted. She felt it like a knot, tight and uncomfortable, growing bigger every second she watched him smile. She hated that smile. She hated how calm he looked. She hated how everyone around him seemed relaxed and friendly. He should not be happy, she whispered. Not after what he did to me. Of course, Mark hadn't actually done anything. But in Karen's mind, she had turned a small moment, a missed greeting, into a personal attack, a deep insult, a crime against her pride. To her, Mark was no longer a stranger. He was the villain in her story. The marina workers kept glancing at her nervously. They had seen angry visitors before, but Karen was different today. She wasn't just angry. She looked unstable. Her breaths were short and sharp. Her hands twitched like she was trying to hold onto something invisible. Her jaw clenched and unclenched. She kept whispering to herself. He thinks he can ignore me. Me! He needs to be taught a lesson. He needs to understand how it feels. A dangerous thought slowly entered her mind. At first, it was small, a weak whisper. But the more she stared at the yacht, the louder that whisper grew. What if she took something away from him? Something that mattered? Something big enough that he would never forget? The idea scared even her for a moment. She wasn't a criminal. She wasn't a violent person. She had never done anything like this in her life. But anger changes people. Pride blinds people. Jealousy twists people. And Karen was no longer thinking clearly. Her breathing slowed. A strange calm washed over her. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the ocean breeze touch her face. Then she opened them again. That was when her decision locked in place, as if someone had flipped a switch inside her. Fine, she whispered with a cold smile. If he won't respect me, I'll make sure he never forgets me. She walked slowly along the dock, pretending to admire the boats, pretending to be a normal visitor. But her eyes were sharp, searching. Studying. She noticed everything. The workers cleaning the boats. The toolbox left open near a bench. The maintenance cart standing alone. The cleaning supplies resting in the shade. She stopped when she reached the cart. A bottle of cleaning liquid sat there, half open. It wasn't dangerous by itself, not really. But Karen knew nothing about chemicals. All she saw was an opportunity. She looked around. No one was watching closely. She picked up the bottle slowly, slipped it into her bag, and continued walking. Farther down the dock, she spotted another item, a small metallic lighter sitting on a crate of ropes. A worker must have left it there after his break. Karen's hand trembled as she reached for it. She hesitated. This was crossing a line. For a moment, her reflection in the shiny metal caught her eye. She saw a woman she barely recognized, wild hair, angry expression, eyes full of pride and stubbornness. She looked like someone who could do something stupid. Something dangerous. Something she could never take back. Her breathing grew shaky. But then she turned her head and saw Mark laughing with a friend on the deck. That was it. Her hesitation died instantly. She grabbed the lighter. It slid into her bag quietly. Let's see how much he laughs after this, she whispered, and her voice didn't sound like her own. Slowly, carefully, she made her way back toward Mark's yacht. She stayed on the far side of the dock, where the security cameras had blind spots. The marina wasn't built for crime, no one expected someone to try something crazy near boats worth millions. Karen wasn't rushing. She didn't want to attract attention. She took small steps, her mind running wild with thoughts. He deserves it. He challenged me. He embarrassed me. She reached the back corner of the dock where Mark's yacht was tied. The area was empty. The crew was inside, preparing equipment. Mark was at the front, talking to another boat owner. Karen crouched near the water, pretending to tie her shoe. Then she opened her bag. Her hands shook, but she forced them to stay steady. She uncapped the cleaning liquid. The smell hit her nose, sharp, chemical, strong. She wrinkled her face but didn't stop. She poured the liquid quietly over the ropes, where the fibers would soak it in. The sun made the drops shine. They almost looked like tiny pearls falling onto the dock. She whispered to herself, just a small warning. Something that scares him. Nothing too big. But the part of her brain that understood danger was silent now. She reached for the lighter. For a second, she paused. Her heart pounded. Her fingers trembled. She felt sweat on her forehead. Just a spark, she whispered. Just something small. Her thumb pressed the wheel of the lighter. A tiny flame appeared. Small. Harmless looking. But powerful. She held it near the rope. The wind blew lightly. The flame flickered. Just 1 second, she muttered. 1 moment. She lowered the flame. That single movement. That tiny action. Was the point where everything changed? The rope caught fire faster than she expected. It hissed and crackled. Karen gasped and stumbled back. The flame raced along the soaked fibers like it had been waiting. She panicked. This wasn't what she imagined. This wasn't small. This wasn't controlled. The fire grew. The rope snapped. The flame jumped to the side of the yacht. The wind pushed it upward. The fire crawled across the boat's surface, hungry and alive. Karen's eyes widened with terror. Oh no, oh no, oh no, this is too much, stop, stop. But fire doesn't listen. Within seconds, the small flame turned into a burning streak climbing the yacht's frame. Karen stepped back, trembling. Her breath was choking her. She looked around. People were starting to notice. A woman screamed. A man shouted for help. Karen's heart dropped into her stomach. This was real. This was happening. And she had started it. She turned and walked away fast, too fast, but not fast enough to escape the fact that this moment, this choice, would ruin everything. The first flame was small, so small that if someone had looked at the dock right that second, they might have thought it was just sunlight reflecting off something metal. But flames grow fast when fear fuels them. The wind blew gently across the marina, and the small fire on the rope suddenly stretched upward, reaching for anything it could find. The soaked fibers caught instantly, glowing bright orange, twisting like angry snakes. Karen froze. Her mind went blank, like someone had turned off every logical thought she had left. At first, she whispered, "It's okay, it's small, it'll go out." But it didn't. The fire crept along the rope, and with one loud snap, the rope broke, sending sparks into the air. The flames jumped to the side of Mark's yacht, licking the glossy paint. The heat built quickly, much faster than Karen ever imagined. Her stomach twisted as the fire glowed brighter, hotter. No, 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 stop, she hissed under her breath. But fire listens to no one. The flames reached a small cloth on the deck. It caught instantly. A soft whoosh filled the air. Karen flinched backward as the fire climbed up the rail, curling around it like a living creature. She looked around desperately. A man checking his fishing rod noticed the light first. "Hey, is that smoke?" he murmured. Karen's chest tightened. Another woman nearby gasped. "That boat, something's burning." Karen stepped back 1 step, 2 steps, 3, unable to look away from the growing fire. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Sweat gathered on her forehead, but not from the heat. She whispered, this wasn't supposed to happen. Her breathing grew fast, shaky. Panic wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. She wanted to run, but her legs felt like they were glued to the dock. Meanwhile, the fire grew louder. The cracking sound became sharper. Flames climbed up the railing and reached the deck floor. The wooden plank started smoking. The fire spread like it had been starving and finally found its meal. Then came the explosion. It wasn't huge, not yet, but loud enough to grab everyone's attention. Boom! The small fuel canister on the deck burst, sending a burst of fire upward. People screamed. Someone shouted for help. Someone else ran toward the nearest emergency alarm and pulled it. Karen stumbled back again, nearly tripping. Her voice cracked. No, this can't be happening. But it was happening. And it was happening fast. The fire alarm blared through the entire marina, echoing across the water. Workers rushed out of the office, their faces full of shock. Boat owners ran toward their vessels, trying to make sure the fire didn't spread. Then came the moment Karen feared the most. Mark saw it. He was standing on another dock, talking to a friend when he turned toward the sudden noise. His face relaxed at first, confused. Then he saw the smoke. Then the flames. Then his yacht. His entire expression changed. His eyes widened. His body froze. Then he broke into a sprint. "And oh," he shouted, racing toward the dock. "That's my boat! That's my boat!" Karen felt her soul collapse. She watched Mark run faster than she'd ever seen anyone run in her life. His feet pounded against the wood. His voice cracked with panic. "Move! Someone call the fire department. Get water! Hurry!" Workers grabbed hoses and buckets. People rushed to help. The fire was still small enough to fight if they acted quickly. But then, the flames reached a stack of cleaning cloths inside the storage area. Whoosh! Another explosion of fire shot upward, bigger this time. The heat hit the crowd like a slap. People backed away, shielding their faces. The yacht was burning. Mark's dream was burning. Karen's panic turned into terror. She hadn't planned this. She thought it would be small, just enough to scare him. She didn't mean for the fire to move this fast, this violently. She didn't want this much destruction. She whispered, over and over, "I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it." But meaning didn't matter now. Because the fire was no longer controllable. Firefighters arrived, sirens screaming. They unrolled hoses, shouted commands, and moved with practiced speed. Water blasted across the flames, creating clouds of steam. The fire hissed angrily, refusing to die. Karen watched from the corner of the dock, hiding behind a boat. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped her bag. Her breath was fast and uneven. She felt like her body wasn't hers anymore. The firefighters fought hard. Water sprayed in long, powerful streams. Smoke billowed high into the sky. But the fire kept spreading. Mark stood just a few feet away, screaming in frustration, trying to get closer. A firefighter pulled him back. "Sir! You can't go near it, it's too dangerous." "That's my life." Mark shouted. "Let me help. Let me do something." His voice cracked with real pain. Karen felt that pain hit her like a punch. She had caused this. Her anger. Her pride. Her need to teach a lesson. Now a man's dream was being destroyed in front of everyone. Another explosion hit, this one bigger, louder. Boom! The yacht rocked violently. Flames shot up like a tower of fire. People screamed. Heat washed across the dock. That was the moment Karen understood. She had gone too far. Way too far. There was no coming back. Her legs finally moved. She turned and started walking away. Not fast enough to run. Running would look suspicious. But fast enough to leave the scene. Her heart hammered inside her chest. Behind her, the fire raged. Behind her, firefighters shouted orders. Behind her, Mark screamed her name without even knowing it. Behind her, her life changed forever. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Because she knew the truth. This fire wasn't an accident. This wasn't fate. This wasn't nature. This was her doing. And one way or another, someone was going to find out. The fire finally slowed after 30 long, painful minutes. The flames were gone, but thick smoke still curled into the sky like a dark, angry cloud that refused to disappear. Mark stood on the dock, shoulders shaking, clothes soaked with sweat and smoke. His face was empty, no anger, no tears, just shock. His $2 million yacht, the one he spent years saving for, the one he built his business around, now stood half-burned, broken, and still steaming. A firefighter walked toward him slowly. "We stopped it before it reached the fuel tanks," he said. "If it had spread a little more, the whole marina would have blown." Mark swallowed hard. "Thank you," he whispered. But the gratitude felt heavy because something inside him had already shattered. People around whispered quietly. "Who did this?" This wasn't an accident. Someone saw a woman. Someone. A woman. A shadow moving away. Mark didn't know who it was, but the thought burned inside his mind. The marina security chief stepped forward. "Sir, we checked the perimeter cameras. We saw someone near your boat a few minutes before the fire started." Mark's eyes lifted slowly, like waking from a nightmare. "Who?" he asked. "We're pulling the footage now," the guard said, but it didn't look like a worker. A strange heaviness filled the air. A cold feeling crept down Mark's spine. The guard pointed toward the office. "You should come with us." The CCTV reveal. Inside the small security room, the air smelled of burnt dust from the fire outside. 3 monitors blinked with blue screens. A security officer typed quickly, loading the footage. Mark stood behind him, silent. The video started. The dock appeared on the screen. Calm. Quiet. Empty. Then, a figure entered the frame. A woman. Short hair. Large sunglasses. Big handbag. Mark recognized that posture instantly. His jaw tightened. His eyes widened. Karen. Karen, the woman who shouted at him, who demanded a greeting, who acted like she owned the entire marina. Mark leaned closer to the monitor. His hands clenched. On screen, Karen looked around, checking behind her. Then she bent down near his yacht. Took something from her bag. Moved her hand near the ropes. And a tiny spark flashed. Everyone in the room gasped. The security chief paused the video. "Well," he muttered, "that answers it." Mark felt the world tilt slightly. He wasn't angry, not yet. He was simply stunned. A woman he barely knew had destroyed his dream because he didn't greet her? The officer moved to the next camera angle. Karen stepping back. Karen staring at the first flame. Karen freezing. Karen panicking. Karen walking away. And then Mark running into frame, shouting in horror. The video ended. No one spoke. Finally, the security chief turned to him and said, "We've already called the police. They're searching the area for her. She shouldn't be far." Mark exhaled slowly. He didn't want revenge. He didn't want drama. He just wanted the truth to come out. Karen gets caught. Karen didn't get far. She tried to leave the marina quietly, walking fast but pretending to look calm. Her heart raced so hard she felt dizzy. Her hands were shaking. Her clothes smelled faintly of smoke. Every few seconds she looked behind her. She whispered to herself, "They won't know it was me. I wasn't on camera. I was careful." But deep down she knew she was lying to herself. Not just about the fire, but about everything. Her pride. Her anger. Her need to feel important. She walked past the marina exit, only 2 steps away from freedom, when she heard a voice behind her. "Ma'am. Stop right there." Her entire body locked. 2 police officers approached. One held a photo printed from the CCTV footage. It was her face. Even with the sunglasses and bag, the picture was clear enough. Karen's voice trembled. That's not me. Ma'am, the officer said calmly, we have multiple camera angles. Please turn around. Tears filled Karen's eyes. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she whispered, her voice cracking. I just wanted him to respect me. The officer shook his head slowly. You almost set the entire marina on fire. People could have died. Karen broke down right there at the gate. Her knees buckled. Her hands shook violently. She didn't even fight the handcuffs. As they walked her to the police car, her eyes finally met Mark's. He had come outside the security office just in time to see her being arrested. Karen sobbed. Mark, please. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Mark looked at her for a long moment. Not with hate. Not with rage. But with pure disappointment. Respect, he said softly, is something you earn, not something you punish people for. Karen lowered her head. She couldn't even look him in the eyes anymore. The police car drove away with Karen inside, crying quietly. The marina returned to a sad silence. Mark walked slowly back to his damaged yacht. A firefighter stood beside it, removing burnt debris. I'm sorry, sir, he said gently. It's going to take months to repair this. Mark nodded. I know. But inside, something else grew. A strange, unexpected strength. He realized something important. A boat could be rebuilt. A business could recover. Dreams could rise again from ashes. But Karen? Karen had burned her own reputation, her own future, without any help from him. He didn't need revenge. Life had already given her the biggest punishment. Her own actions. As Mark walked away, he looked at the still smoking yacht one last time and whispered. This isn't the end. It's just a new start. And the next morning, something happened that changed everything again. But that is another story.